Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. Breaking: the Judge Hippler, denies Bryan Kohberger's defense motion to suppress warrants, digital data, DNA evidence, and the Franks hearing. Denied. Ed, your thoughts before we play this piece?
We nailed it. We said it was going to be denied, both the suppression of the evidence and the Franks hearing. Denied.
Here we go.
New at 6, a judge has ruled that prosecutors can use DNA evidence in their case against the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students more than 2 years ago. Brian Kohberger is scheduled to go to trial later this year for the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Now, last month, Kohberger's attorneys argued police violated the defendant's right to privacy when they collected DNA evidence from his car, house, and computer. They asked Judge Stephen Hippler to prevent the evidence from being presented in court. The judge this week denied that request. He also denied the defense attorney's motion for additional hearings about whether police misrepresented facts in order to secure search warrants.
So that's the Franks hearing, Ed, and
on the search warrant, yeah.
Yep, and the evidence that they were looking to suppress as it pertains to all of his phone data, all of the DNA evidence. Had they been successful, and the judge granted them their motions to dismiss this stuff, the case would have been really on the rocks. Ed, I want to just go to you for your thoughts as it pertains to this ruling that happened just today. We just heard about it, and thank you for telling me at about 6:30 tonight.
Yeah, no, we predicted this when we were covering the hearing, that this was not going to go well for the defense. It was a ludicrous argument. Most legal defense experts didn't understand what she was doing, and what, knew that the judge wasn't buying in it, because, as he said, isn't that probable cause every day and twice on Sunday?
Yeah, and as you just said that, Ed, I was reading my notes, and again, Judge Stephen Hippler, he said, "Isn't that probable cause every day and twice on Sunday?" I got to say something. It's just, for me, when you talked to us about this, when we were all having this conversation, I kind of knew, based on Judge Hippler's demeanor and his body language during that meeting, he was not having it, Ed. And you called it pretty well.
Yeah. I guess she's really regretting the change of venue now, because if this was Judge, I think she might have gotten somewhere with him.
Yeah, Judge couldn't make a decision on his own, and he was very wishy-washy. He was just couldn't come up with a decision. So we discussed this just about 10 days ago, maybe less, and now we have a decision. He did this Wednesday. Today is Wednesday in the afternoon, Idaho court time. Somewhere in the late afternoon, we heard about this. So I just want to go to everybody's thoughts in the comment section here in the live chat. Did you think that Judge Hippler was going to rule in favor of the defense and Taylor, or did you think he was going to rule in favor for the prosecution? Put a 1 if you feel he was going to rule for Taylor, the defense, or put a 2 in the chat if you felt that he was going to rule in the siding of the prosecution. And thank you to all the moderators and the replay viewers, our Patreon supporters, and everyone that's here engaging in this very short, unscheduled live stream. A lot of number 2s are popping up. I see a lot of number 2s. I've yet to see a number 1. I thought that we would have seen
some number 1s,
but
got a couple.
Yeah, a couple. All right, let's play this again quick. It's just a short little piece. I want to just replay it for the people who are just joining.
Idaho students, more case against the man accused that prosecutors can use DNA evidence in their case against the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students more than 2 years ago. Brian Kohberger is scheduled to go to trial later this year for the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Now, last month, Kohberger's attorneys argued police violated the defendant's right to privacy when they collected DNA evidence from his car, house, and computer. They asked Judge Stephen Hippler to prevent the evidence from being presented in court. The judge this week denied that request. He also denied the defense attorney's motion for additional hearings about whether police misrepresented facts in order to secure search warrants, meaning all of the evidence in question will be allowed at trial.
So let's highlight this comment from Caesar. Thank you, Caesar, for the comment. And this is not just Caesar. Many people argue this and say, talk about this. One man kills 4 people. Ed,
Yeah.
you are a crime scene expert. You have processed over 2,500 murder scenes, crime scenes throughout your career, maybe more, and you've testified in court. Ed, can you comment in regards to this statement?
Absolutely. I had a crime scene in Queens where one man killed 5 women. Okay. He killed them with a hammer, a knife, and a gun. Okay. And he rounded them all up. He huddled them in one bedroom in the apartment where these women had access to their own gun, but he had put such fear into their hearts that they didn't even go for the gun after he killed 2 of them already. They didn't even go for the gun to protect himself, because what he would do is he would take one victim out at a time and rape them and kill them. Okay. Wow. This was all over a bad drug deal.
But Ed, the amount of time that it took for Bryan Kohberger to kill 4 University of Idaho students in 4 different locations, 3 different locations. So that's what people, and look, Angelique Flores says, free Bryan Kohberger. There's a lot of people who are on that free Bryan Kohberger, bandwagon, and I get it and I understand it. But at the end of the day, over here on this channel, we don't cheerlead for suspected murderers. We let the state prove their case, and I'm looking forward to, and Ed, I know you are, I'm looking forward to hearing about the evidence that we haven't heard about yet.
Yeah. Well, there are many people in the chat there talking about the other blood samples for the 2 unknown males. And I'm of the opinion, I've said this in previous shows, test it. Don't worry about consuming it and not being able to get a profile.
Right. Yeah.
Do it. Split the sample if you have to. Do it and see what you get. Let the chips fall where they may. But I have a theory, because during the hearings that led up to this decision, the defense attorney kept arguing about these 2 unidentified male blood samples, DNA, that were not, they weren't analyzed, and that she was trying to say that what other reason could it be? If not, then my client is innocent and these 2 people killed the victims, right? Well, how about this, Ms. Defense Attorney? Your client is a PhD candidate in criminology, okay? He staged those 2 items of blood, the glove and the blood on the banister.
Yeah.
Because what did he do when he was arrested? He asked the law enforcement, who else have you arrested?
Yeah, that was something that stood out when he was picked up in Pennsylvania at his parents' home. That was one of the first questions that he asked. Who else was arrested? And I'm glad you brought that back up, Ed, because again, we're always going to have open discourse. People are going to always say, hey, the defendant's innocent until proven guilty, and which we know that. But there's many people that feel like there's no possible way that he did this. But when you're studying, and look, we don't want to forget about his online activity with the questionnaires and so forth. And that was probably part of the curriculum, but some of those questionnaires were interesting, to say the least, as it pertains to this crime scene.
Not only that, he's a PhD candidate, so he's leading graduate students and undergraduate students in forensic lab experiments. He
Right.
could have easily gotten the blood from some of the students.
Right. And the cleanup that he did, such a, going forward after this crime scene has occurred. This was November 13th of 2022 when he's arrested at his parents' home over a month later. He's still wearing gloves in the middle of the night. He's bagging things into baggies. What random person does things like that? I know I wouldn't do that unless I had the knowledge of how to get rid of crime scene and evidence, and taking that stuff and not discarding it in your own garbage, discarding it in your neighbor's garbage. So think about it. Think about it, friends. I love that there's lots of, open conversations in the chat. People saying he's guilty, people saying he's not guilty. Listen, we need to hear more. There is not enough that we know about right now. And I guarantee you, and you can mark my words, once this trial kicks off, there's going to be a ton of ooh and ah moments. Ed, your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're only scratching the surface here about the evidence and what is actually obtained by law enforcement in their investigation. When we go to trial, we're gonna hear more about it. But again, we didn't hear about those other evidence because they're not as damning as that DNA. Okay, the DNA is critical on the snap on the sheath of the knife.
The snap, the button, the metal snap, and we've showed that so many different times. I want to just play this. This is another quick one. This is the second piece of coverage. It's a little blurry, but let's listen into this.
Evidence in the capital murder trial set for this summer. Lawyers representing the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022 had tried to suppress evidence, including information from his online accounts and evidence seized from his Washington apartment and parents' Pennsylvania home, where he was taken into custody. The orders also give prosecutors the green light to introduce DNA evidence during trial, which
So that was snippets from the hearing that we watched. Ann Taylor, she got beat up. I mean, Hippler questioned her on everything that she was inquiring about. I'm not going to rebroadcast that or drag that out. Again, we forget about the Pullman search warrant. We covered that extensively, Ed. There was computer towers removed from there. They spent lots of time. We saw District Attorney Brian Thompson at the scene, and many crime lab personnel going in and out for hours out of that location. Now all of this evidence, as it tried, listen, any good defense attorney, Ann Taylor, I'm going to put her back up on the screen. Ann Taylor is doing a great job of defending Brian Kohberger. And I got to say, if I was in the same position that Kohberger is in, I'd want somebody trying to get damning evidence thrown out that could really hurt me and send me to the firing squad. Ed?
Yeah, well, I believe he's also dictating how she is proceeding. I think he's heavily involved in his defense. He's not just sitting there quiet. I think he's actually directing what the direction that the defense attorneys are going, the questions they are, the challenges that they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Let's pull the chat on that one. How many of you folks in the chat here in the live chat and also on the replay? There's going to be lots of people watching the replay because we didn't schedule this. We just did this on you're just winging it here. Let us know in the chat if you feel that Brian Kohberger is pulling some strings with his defense. Here you see them sitting at the last hearing before Judge Hippler. Let us know if you feel Brian Kohberger is pulling the strings with Ann Taylor and putting some direction on the way he is being defended. Press a 1 if you believe that. Press a 2 if you do not believe that. If you think it's hogwash, press a 2 if you think that's the deal. And I tend to agree with you, Ed. I'm going to put a 1 myself in the chat for me and you. Ed, is this helpful or is this hurtful? Because Ann Taylor is one of 2 capital punishment attorneys in the state of Idaho. She is what it appears to be good at what she does, although we saw in that last round, it was like she went 10 rounds with Mike Tyson in the ring. You think it's good or bad, Ed?
Well, she's doing her job, all right? And it's not being effective with this judge. Like I said, had it been with Judge, we might have had a different outcome here because, in my opinion, he vacillated too much, and he gave her a lot of leeway, and she basically walked all over him.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, you know, sometimes when you have a big high profile case like this, and again, you brought up a great point. Had this been before Judge, we may have seen a different outcome here. I agree with that. But yeah, Kim Wexler's ponytail says he thinks he's a genius.
I kind of feel that way too. I definitely think that there's a whole lot of narcissism here.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Let's play this next little piece. I haven't heard this, but these are just coming out as we're going live here. So let's listen to this. Oh, there's no audio.
What happened?
Can you hear this audio?
Negative, K.
Ed?
I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, could you hear the audio when it plays?
There's
No.
some of the
Okay, here
DNA
it goes.
Now I
evidence.
can.
We begin now with breaking news. An Ada County judge has decided that Brian Kohberger's defense team will not have genetic evidence and more thrown out of the case. Since last month, Judge Stephen Hippler has been deciding whether some of the DNA evidence that was used to arrest Kohberger in the murder of 4 University of Idaho students was gathered legally or illegally. Today, he decided it was gathered legally. He decided cell phone data was also gathered legally and can be used at trial as well. Kohberger is accused of killing Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, and Kaylee Gonsalves in November of 2022. We'll have more on what that decision.
Interesting, Ed. I want to say something too. Is, you know, that cell phone data. People argue that cell phone data doesn't prove anything, but when they're doing those geofence warrants and all of the routes that he traveled, the way he came past 1122 King Road numerous times after the fact, you know, we know from our experience as being seasoned detectives with the NYPD, a lot of criminals like to come back and look at the scene of the crime. It's that thrill of seeing what they created and what they've done. And again, him coming past that location numerous times. How important is that for the prosecution to present that?
Absolutely. He came back, what, 9 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Okay. He drove by that place at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm wondering if he did it because he didn't hear it on the news. You know, he didn't, get, there was no news reports at that time of the horrific events that took place there. And then he went back and was like, what's going on here? I mean, why am I not hearing this on the news? Now, when I train my crime scene investigators, when they're taking their overall photographs at the beginning of their crime scene investigation, especially on the exterior of a location, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So when I train my crime scene investigators, taking their first set of photographs on the exterior of the location, I tell them, turn around and take photographs of the crowd. Right. Always take photographs of the crowd. Okay. Because a lot of times, yes, the bad guy comes back to the crime scene to see what the police are up to.
Yeah. And, the funny part is, too, a lot of times in my career when I was on patrol, I would see the detectives doing that. I'd see them taking pictures with the Polaroid of the crowd. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you would have come back to the scene of the crime. I don't know what's going on with here, but I'm having trouble.
Yeah.
But so
your mic is going in and out.
yeah, I know. It is what it is. But yeah, so that's an interesting point, is that now this evidence is, they asked to have it thrown out. It's not happening. It's not happening. ATS News, good to see you. She says, interesting, Ed. You know, there's a lot to this case, and a lot that people forget that has happened here and has been collected. What do you got, Ed? You see something?
Yeah, I see something. It made me chuckle. Hold on a second. Let me put it up.
Hi, Carrie. Good to see you.
Blue giraffes. If you're leaving DNA at a crime scene, maybe leave a note stating you don't give consent for it to be tested.
That's a good one. I like that. I like that one. That's a good one. Good catch, Ed. Let's say hello to Katina and all of the great mods that are here and all of our friends that are here. Yeah. Again, you know, Ann Taylor is doing her job and asking for damning evidence that is very hurtful to her client to be thrown out. And this is not the first time she's asked judges to throw out evidence. And when I did a search for denial of evidence, I think there was at least 4 or 5 different instances where she asked for things to be thrown out. So it's interesting, to say the least. But Judge Hippler, I commend him for not dragging this out and coming up with a decision quickly. And there was a statement that was put out by Kaylee Gonzalez, mom and dad, and they said, finally we have a judge who wants to get to the trial and get justice moving along instead of dragging it out. You know, this is a case that happened 2 years ago, November 13th, 2022, in the early morning hours. So, you know, we talk about the victims and their families. Well, the victims' families are now just waiting for this trial to start. And I think that we're going to see it. We're going to see it start. And this is another step closer to getting it going.
You want my bet?
Go ahead, Ed.
Antel is going to ask for another delay.
Well, yeah, I mean, she could ask for another delay. I'm not sure if she'll get that. What are your guys' thoughts in the chat? I see Jennifer Nobles is here, Sean B. A lot of familiar faces and a lot of faces that are not familiar, and a lot of people who have their opinions, their thought. Glenda, thank you for being here and being a member. She's saying hello. Look, it's Robbie from Australia. Good to see you, Robbie. It's been a long time.
Like a movie star there, Robbie.
Yeah, look at him.
Hey, Jeff.
Jeff is always throwing his wallet at us. Good evening, DutyRon and Ed Wallace and the family. Kathy, thank you for becoming a new member. Guys, if you could take a minute to just hit that thumbs up, and if you're not yet subscribed, consider subscribing. I'm trying to get the statement from the Gonzalez family, and I think I have it here on the Idaho Statesman. So just give me a minute. Ed, if you want to talk to the crowd while I go and find this, I'll be right back.
Yeah. So, folks, she really got set back on this one. I don't think in her heart of hearts that she really thought she was going to win this one. Okay. You know, because it was far-fetched. It was novel. The judge wasn't buying it. If you can't read the room and realize the judge wasn't buying it based on his statements and his questioning, that she was going to lose these motions, you shouldn't be practicing defense law. That said, so she's got to look for another angle now to try to muddy the waters here, to slow this down and get something, get a win somewhere to help her defend BK.
Brian Kohberger. I think I found it. I just want to put it up here. This is from the Idaho Statesman, and I just want to. I don't know if this is going to play this article instead of me reading it.
Judge in Bryan Kohberger's Idaho student murder case issues evidence challenge decisions. A DNA technique that prosecutors said first identified Bryan Kohberger as the suspect in the University of Idaho student homicides did not jeopardize the investigation, and its use by the FBI does not justify suppressing any evidence collected after that, the judge in the high-profile murder case ruled Wednesday. In addition, the defense's assertion that detectives lied or withheld information from a prior judge to obtain search warrants was unfounded and does not support holding a separate hearing to challenge that evidence, Idaho 4th District Judge Stephen Hippler decided. In spite of allegations otherwise from Kohberger's attorneys, police did not violate their client's constitutional rights during their investigation into the November 2022 student stabbing deaths, he wrote in his long-awaited court orders. Police and prosecutors have said that Kohberger's DNA was found on a leather knife sheath found next to one of the 4 victims at an off-campus home in Moscow where they were found dead. Through analysis, including the process known as IgG, or investigative genetic genealogy, and comparing the sheath DNA directly to Kohberger once he was taken into custody, they landed on a statistical match, investigators wrote in the probable cause affidavit for his arrest. In sum, defendant's argument finds no support under the law, Hippler wrote. Any privacy interest he can claim in this DNA was abandoned along with a sheath, to which he claims no ownership or knowledge. Even if no such abandonment occurred, defendant has not demonstrated it is reasonable to recognize a privacy interest in DNA left at a crime scene. His rulings, across 4 opinions, represent some of the biggest decisions from the Ada County judge since taking over the closely watched case last fall when it moved from Moscow to Boise. Hippler took nearly 4 weeks before issuing his decisions after a pair of hearings, a mix of public and closed-door sessions, held last month. The judge's orders represented a clean sweep for the prosecution over the defense's effort to exclude a variety of evidence from.
So I'll hold it there, a clean sweep. And the IgG, Ed, we've uploaded a lot of shorts on the investigative genetic genealogy, and we had Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick on with us. I know you are more versed as it pertains to DNA and IgG. A lot of people are caught up on it. They're saying that this DNA that's on that snap, on that button, on the knife sheath is garbage. Ed, I want you to address that.
It's not garbage, okay? It's not, like we call it touch DNA, but it's not garbage. I don't know why people think it's garbage. Okay, and any whether it's a blood, first of all, as we know from Dr. Kilpatrick, there's not much DNA in blood, right? She uttered those words on this show right here. So I mean, whether it's a nuclear DNA, a biological fluid DNA, serology, if you will, or a cellular DNA, a skin DNA, or touch DNA, it all has its place, okay? And it all has its probative value. So it's not junk. It's just that you're going to have to explain how it got there, okay? And if you're the defense, now the burden of proof is on the prosecution, not the defense, okay? But the defense is going to have to, as they say, defend how that DNA got there.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to look at the chat and see how everyone's doing in the chat. And Schmitty, she also sent us a little message, so I want to get to it real quick. Angela, good to see you. Thank you for joining. She changed hair color, trying to throw us off. I think he's going to ask for another delay. I think she's going to ask for another delay. Ed just said that. Yeah. You're probably right, Ange. Schmitty says, nice to join the live. It's been a hot minute. Well, we all got lives going on, right? And I'm feeling a lot better in the last couple of days. Since the beginning of the week, I've actually felt a little bit better. But again, I'm still doing this fatigue thing. And, sometimes I got energy and sometimes I don't. But anyways, let's get into, I tried to find the family's statement. I couldn't find it, but from off the top of my head, they were pleased that this Judge Hippler made a decision, and the decision was in the favor of the evidence coming forward. And everybody in the chat, I think we can all agree that innocent until proven guilty, and Bryan Kohberger is afforded that, and he has good representation. He cannot say that I do not have good representation, because Ann Taylor is throwing, what did you say, Ed?
Yeah, yeah. She's
Go
throwing
ahead.
shit. She's throwing shit up against the wall to see what sticks. Or as one of our friends in the chat would say, she's throwing spaghetti up against the wall.
Yeah, I always like to hear when Ed curses a little bit. It makes it a little fiery to hear him curse. But yeah, so it's an interesting. This is an interesting case because it is such a horrific, heinous crime. 1122 King Road was demolished at the University of Idaho's request, and nobody from the defense or the prosecutor side had a problem with that. Ed, I'm still caught up on that. I know Faro 3D laser scanners were used and everything is documented, sketched, and all of that good stuff. But that's still, I could see that being a problem for the jury.
Yeah, I said it before. I'll say it again, right? I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. There's only certain, you have photographs, right? And there's built-in distortion in photographs. There's no two ways about it because it's a perspective and it's two-dimensional. Then you have your 3D laser scans and you have models, whether it's a virtual model or it's a digital model. Then you have, you can walk through the crime scenes using your goggles and have the jury walk through. But what are you missing? You're missing the smells. You're missing the sights, not the sights per se, but the sounds. You're missing those little creaks. You're missing what it sounds like when somebody is ascending or descending the staircases or closing doors or sliding the back glass door to the kitchen. You're not gathering all of that information. You're not going to be able to give that to the jury.
Yeah, and that's the problem here is that 3D laser scanning is going to give the jury a graphic visual on what took place inside of 1122 King Road, because we saw that very day, I believe later in the day, we saw was it Idaho State Crime Lab? The state crime lab. It was two females that were out back with the 3D laser scanners. So they went inside, they scanned the inside, photographs were taken. The jury's going to get to see the crime scene as the officers found it. But like you said, they're not going to get to go in there. They're not going to be able to hear the creaks in the floor. They're not going to be able to visually see themselves. That layout. And I thought it was just a travesty of justice to rip that thing down. It was really bad. Let us know what you think in the chat and what you think in the comments down below as it pertains to the demolition of 1122 King Road. Anything else, Ed, before we go to some questions from the audience? I'm trying to search for more coverage and nobody's covering it. So
well, it just broke kind of late in the evening here.
Yeah. I'm just searching for Brian Kohberger update. I see a bunch of people talking about it on YouTube, but I just wanted to see if there was any extended news coverage. I'm sure it'll be out tomorrow and so forth. All right. Hashtag DutyRon, hashtag Ed, as it pertains to any questions with this case, Bryan Kohberger. Listen, we have a crime scene expert here, Ed Wallace. So if you have any questions about evidence or crime scene related, this would be a good time to ask him. So let's see what we got in the chat.
So Lisa Wilson, will Brian also get to see the crime scene photos also in court? He's got them now. He's got all the crime scene reports, all the crime scene photos. He's got a copy of them, no doubt. He brings them back to his cell and he's looking at them. And then he's, formulating his defense with the defense lawyers looking at. We said this before. I had a homicide in Rikers of a defendant that Ron and I are associated with, named Angel Diaz. Mm-hmm. He hung himself in his prison cell with a Timberland belt. And I had processed the crime scene that he was involved in, which was the murder of a police officer. And when I got there, my crime scene photos and my reports were laid out on his bunk underneath his body when he's hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah. Whew. Here's one from James Bryan. He says, talk about the two witnesses who saw him. Well, listen, it's not for us to talk about because we would be speculating just like you were speculating and everybody else is speculating about these two witnesses. This is some of the things that I'm referring to, Ed, and correct me if I'm wrong. When this trial kicks off, we're going to hear the real deal. We're going to hear what the prosecutor is going to present going forward, and we're going to get to hear the defense cross-examine any witnesses, whether it's one or two or more. And at the end of the day, all of this conversation here, it doesn't mean anything. What matters is what the jury hears and what they decide, because they're the finders of truth. They're the fact finders, not us, not you, James, not any of us. So really all of the banter back and forth, it means ungats, nothing. What it really means is what the jury thinks of it, whether they believe it, whether it's, informative to them to reach their decision. And that's what we need to pay attention to.
Yeah. There was a question about if most of the evidence is circumstantial. I believe most of it is, in fact, circumstantial. Folks, I'm going to give you some homework, all right? For those of you that are in the chat today, I want you to look up the monkey business illusion. The monkey business illusion. Just Google something like that. Or the monkey business experiment, okay? There are several of them that are out there and that you can look at. And these are experiments that were done for a college thesis that, show how unreliable eyewitness testimony is. That's why I love forensics and I love science so much. But I want you to go out there and look at that. And there were several of them that I use in my training, and I'm showing a room full of cops these things, and they still get it wrong. Okay. And then sometimes I just put up words. I put a whole sentence, and I read the sentence to them. They read it with me. It's being projected on a board. And then I shut it off and I ask them, okay, how many F's were in that statement? How many letter F's were in that statement? Most people don't get it right because of their education, their, how they grew up, religion, all these various societal things impact how people perceive things. And, there's certain things that occur where like a 2-letter word that has F in it sometimes gets tuned out. Okay. So, that's your homework. I want you to play with that. And so I got a caller here who wrote, Ed, what do you think about the delayed response time in the house to 911? I think the witness's roommate hid under the bed and passed out from intoxication. Okay, well, again, now you're getting into all kinds of speculation, but it's never a good thing to have a delayed response to a crime scene, especially a crime scene of this magnitude, okay? The quicker we get there, the quicker we can get the help to anybody that needs help, the quicker we can secure the crime scene and its evidence. And unfortunately, with this delayed response, there was some things that are cringeworthy with the friends of the people that were residing in that house, entering and exiting the crime scene.
Right, and she's alluding to the Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk. The roommate heard what was going on, allegedly saw a person wearing black, and then went back to sleep. And then 12 noon came, and that's what that question was alluding to, is that the amount of time before police were called. Remember, Kohberger came back around 9 o'clock, and he was probably freaked out that there was no cops there was no EMS there, so that's the thing, is like a lot of people have a hard time swallowing that pill of that this girl supposedly saw Bryan Kohberger or somebody inside that house and just decided to go back to bed. Now it's a party house. There's many men, male and female DNA inside that house. Remember, we saw the body cam footage of the cops coming up for noise complaints. There was people all over that house. Oh, is the owners here or the people occupants here? No, they're not here. And it's just a party type place where there's tons of male and female DNA that can be left around. That's another thing I wanted to ask you about that crime scene. Is it unusual that they found unknown male DNA in and outside of that location, given the fact that it was a party house, Ed?
No, not at all. I'd be amazed, that they didn't find DNA. But again, I don't know the training of the crime scene investigators involved in this investigation. I don't know how they focused on certain areas and why they took what they took over what they tested a bunch of different things and got negative results. Okay, right. With presumptive blood tests and so forth. I don't know, what surfaces were swabbed. Like, I would use an alternate light source. I might use some other chemicals to make things visible. But even then, I'd be swabbing doorknobs. I'd be swabbing handles of entrances and exits, light switches. I'd be swabbing a whole lot of things. But as we found out later, not all of that stuff got tested in the Idaho laboratory because of their protocols and procedures. They don't test everything that may have been taken or submitted. Yeah. Terrible.
So that question, did you address it, W. Womack?
Yes, I didn't address it. Yes, but if he does, get loose lips in the prison or the jail, sure. The person he talks to can be used to give testimony in court and testify as to what he said. Like, we call them jailhouse confessions.
Yep, and it would have to be a subpoena, and he'd be subpoenaed to come into court. Unit says, hey, come on, man. He didn't go back to the crime scene. He was never there in the first place. Come on, man. What the It
didn't play whatever you tried to do. But he didn't go back. Okay, that's your opinion, and you're entitled to your opinion. I don't necessarily agree with you. In fact, I respectfully disagree. I believe that law enforcement has proof that he, in fact, went back to that crime scene. Ron? Uh-oh, we lost Ron, folks. Everybody, you still with me? Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Okay. Okay, Smitty, thank you for letting me know you're still with me. All right. Ron is running stuff in the background, but Ron is gone. All right. I know he's controlling stuff, but I don't know what's going on. So that said, any other questions?
I'm back.
You're back, huh? You had to run to the bathroom?
No, no, the computer's got a mind of its own tonight. I don't know what's going on with it. So it's getting a little crazy. All right. There was a couple of questions in the chat. So I want to grab some of the chat. I see Schmitty says, we don't need Ron. LOL. Schmitty, that's nice. Next time you come to New York, you can have Ed pick you up and bring you for pizza. How about that?
Yeah, I'll get you real pizza instead of the stuff he got you.
Anyways. So Teresa B, a channel member, says, I respectfully disagree with Ed. That is my opinion.
That's fine. We'll find out when we go to trial.
Yes, absolutely.
The proof will be in the pudding, okay? As they say.
Brenda Redmond, who's been around for a long, long time, since the boys in Bakersfield, California, and I appreciate her support for a very long time here. She says, I think Brian Kohberger, BK, he wanted to see if he could commit the perfect murder.
I have that feeling too, based upon his studies and what he was doing in school, and the fact that one of his professors wrote a book with BTK.
Right. Yeah. There was a lot of discussion about that. Don't forget, this case is going back to 2022. So there definitely was a lot of conversation about it. Eddie T, good to see you. Thank you for joining. I've never, hold on. WMX says, I've never disagreed with Ed or Ron because they're so intelligent and experienced. Well, you know what? We don't always get it right because there's been a lot of times where Ed and I have had to set the record straight, right?
Yeah, we've debated things, and I was wrong on several opinions, and Ron was right, and then Ron was wrong on several opinions, and I was right. It happens.
Anybody who claims to be right all the time is full of shit. So I'm sorry, but we admit that we did definitely get stuff wrong. But when it comes to stuff, you saw something funny, Ed?
No, it just what you just said brought up a comment the doctor made to me once. He said, he told me, "All right, folks, hang on." This was a urologist, okay? So you can imagine where I'm going with this, right?
Oh no.
He says, any guy over the age of 40 that tells you that they don't have any ED is a liar.
Oh, geez. Lordy. I want to reel this back in, Ed. Thanks for taking it there.
Come on, we got to have some laughs.
I hear you, brother. I want to reel this in because this is from the last hearing. I want to just play this. Fox 13 is on this quite. They're doing a lot of coverage on this. Fox 13 in Seattle. So let's listen to this.
Genealogy, and they believe that this is a violation of Kohberger's 4th of 2022. Thursday's hearing was centered on Kohberger's attorneys fighting for nearly all the evidence collected be thrown out. They say police illegally obtained his DNA through genetic genealogy, and they believe that this is a violation of Kohberger's 4th Amendment rights, which protects individuals against unreasonable searches and seizures. The defense also argues evidence was illegally collected from Kohberger's digital history, including Amazon, Apple, and Google accounts.
All right, let's talk about this, Ed. Amazon, Apple, and Google, they were looking to throw all this stuff out. And the reason I'm playing this is old. This is from 3 weeks ago or whatever. This is all going to be in court, and it's going to be presented. And I have a feeling, just as you said, Ed, that he purchased that K-Bar knife on Amazon.
Well, he either purchased it or he researched it.
Purchased it or researched it, but this right here, this is damning against the defense's client, Bryan Kohberger. This is damning. They worked hard to get this suppressed, and they didn't work hard to get it suppressed just because. They worked hard to get it suppressed because it will hurt their case tremendously, their defense.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was thinking, because the K-Bar is a specific knife for the Marines. Okay. There were other branches that had them, but not the Marines were the predominant branch of the military that had that knife. And I was wondering if they ran that, if they ever got those two DNA samples of unknown males, two separate unknown males. If they ran it and they were able to produce a profile, if one of them was a Marine, right? Like in a frame of Marine students, maybe at his college,
right? Yeah.
I mean, it's I'm just spitballing here, speculating, and then, he just, in the planting of this evidence, he was going to leave that K-Bar there. And the fact that there maybe one of the DNA samples came back from a Marine who's a student at the college, whatever the case, and to kind of frame somebody. I thought that is something interesting, to look at. But
that's an interesting aspect, and it could be in the mind of Brian Kohberger.
Right. Yeah. If you're thinking you're trying to plan the perfect murder and get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet Leaf says Taylor is making law history by not legally using family DNA. Taylor is making law history.
Okay. There was a
Mhm.
question
Digital
here.
history, including Amazon, Apple, and Google accounts, as well as cell phone data, placing Kohberger at the scene of the murder a dozen times before the actual killings.
A dozen times before the actual killings. Those were those drive-bys and the we call it advance work, right? And that shows also premeditation. If it's alleged that he went past that location dozens of times, as you know, as it pertains to his cell phone data and so forth.
Murder a dozen times before the actual killings.
In this case, it was, of course, enormously important because that's how they identified Kohberger.
Legal analyst Ann Bremner says the defense is trying to poke as many holes as it can ahead of the trial.
It's like a house of cards. I mean, this fails, everything fails, and the case is gone.
Prosecutors say there is nothing unconstitutional about using that type of evidence. Genetic genealogy is a new way for police to investigate by comparing DNA found at a crime scene to public databases filled with DNA submitted by people.
Ed, this was the day that we were with Barbara Butcher, right? Legal medical death investigator, our friend Barbara Butcher. And we were going crazy because this is the chief at the time and all of the state police taking out items from 1122 King Road. Do you think the defense is going to bring that up at trial, Ed?
I don't know if there was a hearing on this with the judge and the prosecutors, law enforcement, the defense, and the judge all agreed to this occurring, but it's highly unusual, and it was very disturbing to me to see this occurring.
This freaks me out, you know, all these years later. When I see this, it's like giving me flashbacks. We spent a good hour and a half discussing this, and Barbara was very adamant about, you do not take, I don't care how nice you want to be and how you want to be, you know, nice to the family and get, you know, some of the things that are out inside that location, that quadruple murder scene, taking boxes and putting them in a U-Haul truck. And I don't know, man. I still can't get past this. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think in the live chat.
Just so the folks know, we don't control these ads. I don't, you know, also you need to know is Fazoli's is not Italian food. I don't know what that is.
There you go.
Databases filled with DNA submitted by people trying to learn about their ancestry. Bremner says this is the defense throwing a Hail Mary that could potentially be used later down the road.
Every little thing and every big thing that you raise, you have to think about an appeal. Like, we may lose this, but that's an appeal. You know, this was a good issue, and we may not win on that, but it's an appeal.
Your Honor, we're here because the state has alleged that a single piece of evidence ties Mr. Kohberger to this case.
More than 5 hours after the hearing started, the court opened the feed to the public, Kohberger making his first appearance of 2025.
I struggle with the idea that DNA left at a crime scene, that there's any expectation of privacy by someone who leaves DNA at a crime scene, that DNA can't be, as you say, searched without a warrant to establish identity.
Well, Your Honor, I don't think any of us can go out of our houses without leaving DNA all over the place.
And we're talking about a murder scene in a house to which he has asserted no connection whatsoever. 4 victims to which he has asserted no connection whatsoever. We're not just talking about his DNA happened to be found in, you know, a dresser drawer or something. It was found on a knife sheath where 4 people were killed by a knife.
And this hearing is expected.
So there you have it. Ed, interesting, right? All of the things that she looked to have suppressed were denied, including her the judge denied her a Franks hearing.
Yep, she is in deep doo-doo now.
For those of you joining, listen, the title says it all. Breaking Bryan Kohberger's defense motion to suppress DNA and digital evidence denied. So this is a huge blow to the defense. Is Ann Taylor done? Probably not. But there's really not much more that she could try to pick apart, Ed. You know, there's many things that we do not know as it pertains to what the prosecutor has. And when this trial does commence, and I hope it does commence as scheduled, summer of 2025, there's going to be a lot of oohs and ah moments for not just you and I, but for everybody that's on both sides. The people who feel Bryan Kohberger has nothing to do with this, and there's some other murderer or murderers out there, and the people like ourselves who are, you know, we subscribe to that. Most district attorneys do not try to go and railroad somebody just pulling things out of thin air. All this evidence was at that crime scene. All the evidence pertains to Bryan Kohberger, and that's the reason his defense was trying to get it all thrown out. So I don't think that there's much more to say. I know that we don't always say things that will jive with other people, and people get pissed off and get mad. And listen, we're going to agree to disagree. That's the beauty of America. That's the beauty of this great land, is that we can all agree to disagree. But Ed, I want to go to you for final thoughts because I'm losing gas.
Okay.
Yes, but I'm
I
losing.
see Joey Brooklyn's in the audience. And this a little side note. Joey, I wasn't talking about the actual Italian food, Fazoli. There's a chain restaurant called Fazoli's, and I mostly run across it in the South. It's like the McDonald's of Italian food. Okay. But that said, that's why I say that Fazoli's is not real Italian food. Okay. That said, folks, I thank you for being here. Thank you for spending this hour with us. I know you can get your true crime fix anywhere on the internet that you like. We appreciate you being here and spreading the word about us. And I just want to say thank you again. And remember, folks, always stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six.
Amen to that, Ed. Yeah, you know, look, again, the beauty of this is that I always respect, and so does Ed, we always respect your position. And you know, everyone gets a rise and has fun, you know, when the trolls show up and people make disrespectful comments. They may slide through, but when we do the review, Ed he's got a magnifying glass. He sees comments that I would never even see. So listen, if you want to express how you feel, or you know, how you may disagree with our synopsis here or our overview, just do it respectfully and we'll engage with you. But once it starts to go to disrespect, then it's a wrap. So that's how it is, and I appreciate that. So I want to say strength, prayers, and positive vibes to the victims' families, the surviving families, the folks in Moscow, Idaho, all of the students at the University of Idaho who, you know, again, are innocent victims here. They have to deal with this. This is a history now that you're not going to ever be able to shake. And I don't know what the plans are for 1122 King Road. I haven't really looked recently, but there was talk about a garden and all this healing stuff. I'm all for whatever works for that community because I'm not from there. I'm here in New York. So whatever they decide to do, I will try to back them up and stand by them. So I want to, again, thank you all for being here. Tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the indictments on the correction officers who were who murdered on video Robert Brooks will be unsealed, and they will be arrested on the indictments. And it's going to be a live press conference. Ed and I are going to cover it live. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you look for that notification. I'm going to set it up tomorrow in the mid-morning. Hopefully we get a good feed into the Onondaga County District Attorney's Office. That's Mr. Fitzpatrick. And we're going to cover that, and we're going to have live coverage on the unsealed indictments that will be, that these guys will be arraigned on tomorrow. So I don't know how many it will be, but we're looking forward to seeing what the Onondaga County District Attorney comes up with. On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, I want to thank you. Joey, I hope you're feeling better, brother. I want to thank you for being here, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace and love from DutyRon and Ed.